guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new I Don't Work Here Lady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Miss Mayor Chases Me Down to Ask About My Former Workplace. I used to work at a Sonic in a very small southern town. I worked there for about 3 years and was a manager for about a year before leaving. Last time I worked there was in 2015, almost 4 years ago. That's pretty important to remember. Since it is a small town, I usually just walk anywhere I need to go, and this particular day last week I decided to walk to the store and get ice cream. So I popped my headphones and hoodie on and start walking. I get to the street where the store is, about 4 blocks away from where I live. And right before I get to the incline going up the back of the store lot, I hear someone calling out over my music. They weren't calling my name, just a general, "Hey," to get my attention. So I turn to see if this shout is directed at me, and sure enough comes the Ebb sprinting down the street at me. Now unfortunately I do know this woman. She owns the laundromat connected to the store and her husband is mayor, but she's quite a bit older than me and I really only knew her because of her husband. I call her Miss Mayor in my head because she acts like she was the one voted in sometimes. The conversation follows. "Miss Mayor. Oh, good, I caught you. I have a question for you." Me. Sure, what do you need?" Here Miss Mayor stands up straight and leans in to me really close, getting up in my face. Why can't I get my goddamn milkshake on time?" She is literally screaming in my face and I take a big step back because I am not comfortable with physical contact and being screamed down. Me. Jesus Christ, first of all, back up. Second, never scream in my face again. And third, what the duck are you talking about? Huffing and puffing in either indignation or out of breath from literally running me down the Sonic. I waited 10 minutes for my shake. Me. Clearly annoyed lady, I haven't worked at Sonic for almost 4 years. If you have a complaint, take it up with the store. I think this the end. I'm stupid. I turn to leave and hear this loud scream sigh behind me. I'm not done yet. Your employees gave me crappy service and I demand an explanation. Me. I don't work there. At this point our screaming match is of course drawing the attention of the local busybodies and one person in particular. The mayor himself steps out on his porch and yells out, "What are you doing?" to his wife, but as soon as he sees me he gets this look on his face that is about a million times just done and goes, "Goddamn it, woman, I told you that girl don't work there no more," in all the deep southern drawl glory you can imagine. Miss Mayor starts hemming and hawing and I manage to piece together that this lady had some bad service at the Sonic I used to work at and for some reason was blaming me all night to her husband, who told her multiple times I didn't work there but couldn't get it through her thick head. I stood for a second as Mayor came to collect his wife before flashing a peace sign and drifting away to get my ice cream. I'm almost entirely sure that there was more behind this than just bad fast food service, small town politics, and people here will jump on your ass for any little thing. Even if your cousin's girlfriend's brother did it, somehow it affects the entire family. Wonder who in my immediate or non-immediate family pissed in her Cheerios. The next story is titled I Work Here But I Don't Work Here. Crazy Karen accuses me of attacking her with tea. Cast. Me Karen. K supervisor. S sandwich shop employee. SE. So it happened. I finally met my first Karen after 19 years. I've met many people with the Karen haircut, but they've all been nice. Not this time. So I work at a well-known corner shop in the UK. We also happen to have a well-known sandwich shop as part of our shop. Now, they have a fancy coffee machine that makes lattes and all the fancy coffee, so we all tend to use that to get tea or coffee. Sometimes they'll offer to make one for us. In the mornings there's usually only one person on making sandwiches and we always have two. One supervisor and one sales assistant. Well, on this morning I was behind their counter making myself a cup of tea because I hate coffee and I only know how to make tea on the machine. SE was out in the warehouse sorting out their delivery when Karen came in and caught me. I have my back to her minding my own business. Now bear in mind our uniforms are completely different. Ours is black with our company name. Theirs is green with a hat with their company name on the front of their shirt in huge letters. K. Excuse me. Turns around and smiles. Yes, hello, I'll be over in just a sec. I assumed she was a customer for my side. K. Make me a latte and a cappuccino to go. Me. Oh sorry, I'm afraid I can't do that. I don't work here. K. But you're using the machine and are behind the counter, so you can just make me my drinks. Me. No, I'm sorry, I don't know how to make the drinks you want, and I don't work for sandwich shop. I work for corner shop. Look, my uniform says so. I point to company logo on my shirt. K. I don't care, you're behind the counter so you can make my drinks. Me. Getting fed up. I'm tired and it's too early to be dealing with this. I was just making myself a cup of tea. If you give me a second I can buzz up SE so she can make your drinks. K. No, you are behind the counter. Don't lie to me, I saw you use the machine, so you do know how to use it. You're just being difficult, you twat. Me. Look, I'm not lying to you and I don't appreciate you talking to me like that. I start to walk to the door to go to my side of the shop with my tea. K. Don't you dare walk away from me, you idiot. By this point I've had enough, so I carry on walking to my side when she grabs my arm, making me spill my tea over both of us. Great. I'll have to clean that up. I ignore her and keep walking and immediately buzz my supervisor up. Karen's still having a go at me and screaming about how I threw my tea over her. Luckily S finally heard all the commotion and came over. S. What's the problem here? K. I tried to get some help from this employee here and she ignored me. When I went to ask her again, she threw her drink on me. Look, it's burnt me. Proceeds to show S where the tea landed on her arm. Me. What? That's not true. I was making myself a drink and explained to her I couldn't make her drink for her. When I said that, she got all mad and grabbed me, making me spill my drink. Go watch the cameras. At this, Karen looks a little scared but still kept her story. S goes to look at the cameras and I go back behind the toll to serve other customers. Karen stood quietly by the door. I'm surprised she didn't try and leave. S comes back out and proceeds to ban Karen for laying hands on me. She was fuming but ultimately left when S threatened to call the police for assault. I now have the satisfaction of seeing her face plastered on our wall of shame every time I work. The next story is entitled Farmer Doesn't Want Us to Use the Gate on Our Property. I am a 38 meters and the following events took place when I was about 12. So details will be few, but I will share what I know. Background. I grew up in a semi-developed area. Back when my grandparents, on my mother's side, first purchased the land, the area was fairly rural, but over time a neighborhood grew up around them. As their children grew up, my grandparents decided to divide the property they owned into several parcels and gave each of their kids a plot of land. My grandpa was also a house mover, note, moving the actual buildings from one location to another. Not moving people, belongings from one house to another, and so helped them move houses from an area that was slated to be demolished to build a highway onto the new parcels. I grew up with all my immediate neighbors being my family. As time marched forward, my aunts and uncles moved to new locations as their housing needs changed. I.e., new job, more kids than rooms, etc. As they moved out, the new neighbors were pulled into the environment and became close family friends, as we were all friendly, and it gave the area a small town feel, even though, by this point, we were part of a larger city now. One day one of these new neighbors had gotten his realtor's license and was constantly approaching my parents with amazing opportunities to purchase land as an investment. My parents, being good friends with this neighbor, didn't want to offend him by telling him that they weren't interested and would never be interested, decided to instead give him a long list of requirements for the type of property that they would be interested in buying. The list included: it needed to be within 2 hours driving distance. It needed to be away from any major cities. It needed to be within 5 minutes of a nearby town. You shouldn't be able to see said town. It had to be at least 1 acre, about 4,000 square meters. It needed a stream running through it. There were other requirements, but I don't remember them all. The only other requirement that my parents gave this family friend was that it had to be at a price so low they figured they had sent him off on a unicorn hunt. 1 week later he came back with their unicorn. In the past, a less than scrupulous realtor had a client that wanted to invest in land. This realtor had sold him bits and pieces of mostly useless land. Think thousands of acres chopped up into useless chunks. I.e., a couple of acres on the side of a mountain so steep that you couldn't build on it. Or a few acres that could be used but was landlocked by other owners without any access to it. After he passed on, his daughters were selling this land to get what they could for it. The unicorn property was one of the few that was accessible and flat enough to be usable with enough slope to keep the stream running through it from being a flood hazard. The surrounding land was used by farmers that raised sheep or turkeys. Most of these farmers owned thousands of acres, so when the realtors selling had approached them about possibly buying 3 acres, they all dismissed it as not worth their time. This is important later. My parents, after some serious discussions with each other over what to do, decided to buy the property. After all, it was an opportunity that was too good to pass up, and the number that my parents had given was within their means even if it was a stretch on their finances. They did everything by the books. An independent survey was conducted and the surveyor drove stakes into the ground at all 4 corners of the lot. It ended up being about 3 acres of land. Now the survey was off from some of the fences in the area, as those fences had been done informally by the farmers as a way of keeping livestock from wandering off. My family consists of my parents, me and my 3 siblings. Us kids were just old enough to be of help on construction projects, and as my parents didn't have extra cash to pay a contractor to build the house, they decided that instead of taking a camping trailer we had out camping, they would instead park it on our new property and develop the land ourselves. This property was now our vacation property. As we laid out where the fence lines would be, we noticed that the neighbor's gate to access his property was mostly on our side of the property line, but some was on his side as well. Now we had used this gate to get in, as this gate was locked by a chain that had several locks on it to allow multiple people access, and my parents with the purchase had received a key to one of the locks on the gate. My parents decided to fence up our property but leave a big enough gap that anyone with a lock could open this gate and drive through to the neighbor's land. Here is where the story starts. Cast. Mom. My mom Dad. My dad EF, entitled Farmer. We were doing most of the work on the weekends as my dad still had his regular job to work. We started putting up fence on Friday evening. Slept in the trailer, got up on Saturday, finished putting up the rest of the fence, and had planned on just enjoying Sunday. Midday Sunday the neighbor showed up and started opening his gate. As my dad had run into town for something, my mom decided to go and introduce herself and make sure that the gap we had left was big enough for his access needs. All dialogue is approximate. Mom. Hi, you must be our neighbor. We're the ones who bought this property. We live up in the city and bought this as a vacation property. I just wanted to introduce myself and make sure that we left you enough room for any equipment you might need to get through this gate, as we won't always be here if it becomes an issue. EF. Your property line is off. If you look at the fence on the far side there, you'll see that you are taking more than your share. You need to remove your fence. Mom. We wondered about that too when we first saw the surveyor's stakes. But we've had a survey double-checked and it was done based the town center. We were also assured that all marks are within 3 inches, about 7.6 centimeters, of true. Note. We could roughly divide our property into thirds using existing landmarkers. 1/3 was on the other side of the stream. 1/3 from the stream to where the old fence would have continued if it hadn't made a 90 degrees turn. And the last from the old fence line to the new fence we had just put in. EF. That can't be right. Mom. You're more than welcome to have it double-checked if you want. EF. I use this stream to water my sheep, and if the property line is that far off from the old fence line in your favor, it easily could be that far off in the other direction. So, all the land to the stream is mine. You need to get off. Mom. We purchased 3 acres worth of land, and what is left on the other side might be 1 acre, but there is no way it's 3. The survey can't be off by that much. I think this surprised EF, as my mom had said we were from the city and he didn't expect us city slickers to know what an acre is. And he decided to change tactics. EF. Even if the original property line was where you say it is, it doesn't matter now. The law says that if something is treated as the property line for X number of years, then it becomes the property line. Now this is true, however it must be treated as the property line by all owners involved in order to become the line in fact. I believe the reasoning for this law was to keep surveys that historically wandered a bit due to old surveys being less accurate than new surveys from causing too many property disputes. As the man who had owned this property before us had never been here, he couldn't have agreed to treat anything as the property line. EF. Since the fence and the stream has been used as the property line for my property for at least 20 years now, it definitely qualifies, and so all this land is mine no matter what your survey says. Mom. Look, we're not going to block your access to the stream. We won't be here most of the time, so it won't bother us if you drive your sheep through this access gap and water your animals. Also, as long as we can keep using this gate, we won't close up the gap and both of us can use it. You for your property and us for ours." I don't remember what he said if anything after that, but he got in his truck and drove off into his property. Another thing to note is that this gate and road wasn't the primary access to his property, it was more of a convenient way to get to this part of his land. If the earth opened up and created a canyon along the fence line the gate was on, he would still have access to all of his property. We went home at the end of the day so my dad could work his normal workweek. The next weekend, when we got back down to our vacation property, we found that EF had ripped out our fence line where the old dirt track crossed it and piled it up on along the old fence. We got to work putting it back in place. My dad decided that if that was how EF was going to behave, he would stop trying to accommodate him. We finished fencing in our property right into the middle of his gate. We added our own gate next to it on our property. Also, the work we had originally planned on getting done this weekend was to dig a trench for the foundation of the home we were building. My dad decided that we would use the old dirt track, that ran through the middle of our property, as the driveway. He dug the trenches so that the foundation would be centered on the dirt track. The extra dirt and rocks dug up? He put it right on the dirt track at the edge of our property so that, even if EF ripped out the fence, he still wouldn't be able to drive there. The EF did rip up our fence again and confronted my dad about the land being his, but by then my parents had consulted a lawyer and knew that there was nothing the EF could do. Once my parents had the lawyer send a cease and desist letter, we never heard from him again. In the end, instead of sharing a gate and herding his animals through the access point to water them with the stream on our property, he decided to destroy our fence. As a result, his access was closed, and he needed to pay to buy water rights to water his animals. The next story is titled "I Just Want to Buy Painkillers." This story takes place around February, March 2020. In my country, there were corona guidelines for a week or so, 1.5 meters distance, limited people allowed per store, etc. I, 22F, work in a store with a blue uniform. I was starting to have a headache, so I asked my boss if I could go to the store next door. They sell painkillers and vitamins, they wear red uniforms. After waiting in line I got lucky and got the last box of paracetamol. I'm allergic to most other painkillers. The feeling of luck soon vanished when a wild Karen, 40-ish F, appeared. She took the box out of my hand. I was shook. Me? Excuse me? Karen. Just keep restocking, I need more than those. Me? Looking around to see if she was talking to me. Ma'am, I don't work here. May I have those back please? Karen. Looking confused and realizes I do not work here. Well, I'm keeping these, take ibuprofen or something. Me. Ma'am, I am allergic to the other painkillers, can I have the paracetamol back please? Karen. Screaming, you don't need them anyway, you are young. If I get corona I can die. I need them more. Me. At this point my headache was horrible and I felt sick, so I signaled an employee and explained what happened. The employee took the box of paracetamol and gave them to me and kicked the lady out of the store for not following the social distance guidelines. Man, never had I encountered a Karen like that. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.